Our Lord teaches us the way of the kingdom. He has prepared for us great things. It's amazing how that we accept lesser rather than striving for the greater. We are not failures. We are not weak. God has created us like Him. The beauty of His life is very powerful for us to follow. It's amazing how that certain things we just accept as normal, when in reality they are not normal. Sickness, disease, pain. We think these are normal. These are not normal. These are results of sin. There was no such thing before Adam and Eve failed. But today we accept these things as a norm. Well, you're going to go through it. We do because that's what we believe. As a man thinketh, so is he. But we do have the work of Christ. Christ went to the cross and He bore stripes for our healing, to bring us out of the darkness and bring us into the light. He's given us new hope and new life. Only if we would have a comprehension of that, an understanding of that, and believe it and stand in it. And the enemy would knock on our door, we won't accept. We won't allow it to stay. It may come for a moment of time, but our faith in God delivers us and gives us new life. Remember, He restores us. He restores. So even if those things come, there's restoration following. If we just hold on and believe in God, He will not fail us. The beauty of these lessons, I think, really challenge us in this particular time that we are living in. Because we hear so much about what the world is going through. And it brings great anxiety and fear in the lives of many people. Should it not be that we are proclaiming the greatness of God to take away the fear and bring the joy of our salvation into a reality? I believe the thing that is happening, the enemy is trying his best to destroy the people of God. Why worldwide are the churches closed or limited? Why? Because they are the source of life. The enemy doesn't want that. And governments think that the church is not essential, but the church is life. Without the church, it's nothing and it's death. And is that not what's happening? We stand firmly on what God has given to us. We are not disobedient, we follow. We wear the mask, we wear the shield, we do the social distancing, all these things. We don't believe in those because our faith is in God, and God is greater than all these things. The beauty of God. Jesus, in His ministry, was creating great uneasiness among the religious people. In the time of Christ, the religious people were almost like the governments of the world today. They had different parties. They had the Pharisees, they were one party. They had the Sadducees, they were another party. And there were several others along with it. Herodians, go through several of them. And they each had their own philosophies. And basically they were supposedly a part of Israel, a part of the Jews, and part of God's people at that time. The Pharisees were the influential Jews. They were practicing ritual purity, tithing, biblical law according to their own interpretation. And they were very, very particular. 613 laws they had to follow. 10 was not enough. We're going to be greater than 10. It's almost like saying, God, you can make Christians 10. We're going to be better than that. We're going to have 613 to prove that we are better than they are. But this was the Pharisees. They were the legalistic arm of the synagogue. The Sadducees, this particular party rejected the immortality of the soul. In other words, no afterlife, no resurrection. Everything just was based on your human existence and what activity you had. They rejected all the traditions. Life was life, and that was it. So these two were in conflict with each other, much like our politicians are in their philosophies. The church was the same. So they had the differences of opinion, and they were competing with one another. In the past Sundays, sometimes it was the Pharisees, sometimes it was the Sadducees, sometimes it was mixed with the Herodians, even though they were really enemies of one another. They still had one common enemy they were trying to destroy that caused them to lose their values and their importance. So they wanted to get rid of Christ. They wanted to destroy him because they were the ones leading the people, not this stranger who just came. Now he's taking over, saying that he is the Christ. So the Sadducees last Sunday, they came with their questions before Christ, trying to trick him. But he was smarter than they. And he gave an answer to them which was an answer of great wisdom. Look at the coin. What's the image on the coin? Caesar. Okay? That image is there, plus the inscription is there. That Caesar, that coin belongs to Caesar. So give to Caesar what belongs to him. But give to God what belongs to him. And of course what he was saying, they didn't understand, but they thought it was wise, because the image of God is on us. Not only is the image of God on us, the inscription of the kingdom is written deeply in the hearts of man. So man should be giving his honor to God, but Christ, being very wise, he said, okay, if Caesar says this is his, you give it to him, don't take it away from him. They thought, wow, they came to cause a problem. They didn't cause the problem. They were the ones who were embarrassed. Since the Sadducees didn't get the image of Christ wiped away, the Pharisees, in their jealousy, thinking, okay, they couldn't do it, we will. Sounds like politics, doesn't it? They're not able to do it, but we can. We're stronger than they are. And so the Pharisees came before Christ, and one of the lawyers of the Pharisees, testing him, said to him, "Teacher." Now immediately, to say this again, the deception. The deception. They were honoring him as a teacher. A teacher was, in their concept, was one who spoke truth, who was wise, and who you wanted to hear because you were going to follow the wisdom that they had. So here they came in with this as though they're going to wipe away all of his defenses. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? Very smart way to present this, because it gave to Christ an open door. They weren't trying to get rid of the law, remember. They had 613 laws. And among them, among the Pharisees, there were the divisions, and they were arguing within the party of what is important. Some said, it's circumcision. This is number one. This is the most important thing, circumcision. Some said, no, it's Sabbath. Others said, no, it's the sacrifices. So they were divided within because their focus is on the law, and these are things which are required. You're going to be a Jew. This is required. Now, which one is the most important? Circumcision. That's the sign. Oh, no, it's Sabbath. So they bring to Christ this question, because then they would be with the power, whoever would win this is a lawyer doing this, they would be the one to say, no, he said, he's the teacher. So when they presented this to Christ, Christ knew they were deceiving him. So his response is, none of the above. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is from the Old Testament before the time of Christ. This was given in the Scriptures, and it was that which was the foundation of the kingdom. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. The will, the understanding, all of these things had to come together. Your affections had to be for God. Everything was focused upon him. The will, the thought, the very essence of what life is was that which would bring forth God in us. And that's what we love, the affection. This is what I want. I want the things of God. I don't want the things of the world. I want the things of God. The understanding. I know what God is doing. I know his kingdom and his love for us and his compassion for us. And even though the world is doing other things, they cannot equal what God is doing for us. This is the very foundation of the commitment God was speaking about. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. No other gods. No other gods. In the world, they have the God of material things, possessions, images. Who am I? The greatness of the importance that we achieve in our positions. These are the things that the world puts as their gods. If you don't go to college, you can't do anything. If you haven't got the degree, you can't get a job. These are the system of the world, limiting and putting into our minds a God other than the God that created everything. And most of us have fallen for this. But Christ was speaking to them. They were asking, what is the greatest commandment? Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. The focus of everything we are. It's amazing because this is who we are. Who created us? God. How did he create us? What was the DNA that he gave to us? Love. Because he is love. And he said he created us in his image and his likeness. And so we are created. The very foundation of our life is love. It's love. This is how we are made to be. I think this is very evident in our own lives, because if we become angry, bitter, we have stress, we have unbelief, what happens? The result of that is sickness and disease. Because the conflict between who we are, love, creatures of love, and the imagery or the attitudes of that which is contrary to love causes confusion or stress within us, which then results in sickness and disease. So we are created to be love. This is the very image of our life. And when we talk about love, we're not talking about sweet, sweet, sweet. You know, many times I say the box of candy or the flowers. This is love. It's not love. That's deception. It's fraud. Those are gifts, yes, but love is something that's different than that. It's the very foundation of who we are. It's the very evidence of our life, love. It's that which we think. It's that which we say. And it may not always seem at the moment to be sweet, because love sometimes is tough. Sometimes love hurts. But the end product of it is good. And so it isn't always smiling. It isn't always saying, oh, you're great. Sometimes it's being honest. That's love. This is God. And so it's a different concept of love than what we have been taught by the world. The world tells us it's emotional. It's not emotional. It's the very essence of who we are. It's deeper than emotions. Emotions are a part of it. But the foundation of our very existence is the creation of God by creating us like Him. And He is love. And so it means we, the very essence of our life, is love. This is why when we are upset, when we're angry, we don't feel good. It takes away our strength. It takes away our power. Because love is the very power of life. Love is the very essence of life. And when this is a part of who we are, it's that which God created us to be. In that love being the source of our life, it takes us above the ways of man and above the ways of the world. And in that security of love, we no longer are intimidated or threatened with other things. The reason we have the competitions or the jealousies, because we don't really truly know and understand who we are and how we are created. We are created as creatures of love. This is who we are. If we don't understand that, then we are threatened with something else. But if we understand that we are love, have you ever seen any threat to God? No. Is God ever intimidated? No. Sometimes in Scripture it says He's angry. I'm not sure that that's angry as we understand anger. Because His whole character is love. He is doing something in love which we interpret anger because it hurts. Now, I remember when I was small and my father would give me a spanking. My mother was worse than my father when it came to this, because we had a tree in our front yard which was called a weeping willow tree. And the branches are very thin. The leaves would grow out of those thin branches. And my mother would tell me, go out and get a branch off of that tree and bring it to me. Well, when she would spank me with that, ooh, it hurt, because it was this little teeny thing that came. But she would tell you, I do this because I love you. And I thought, oh, that's love. But that was love. Because it was correction that was needed at the moment, because the old nature was manifesting itself in disobedience or whatever it was. And so love corrects. Love is not just ha 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 all the time. Sometimes it's different, and possibly that's where they came up with God was angry. I question whether it was anger. I question it was love in its presentation, not being pleasing, but correcting. Because God is a God of love. Everything he does is based on that love. And so for us, this is the challenge that comes to us. God is saying, Christ is saying to us, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the primary commandment. It's not a part of the law. It is the first law, but the whole law is based on that. The whole law based on love. And so if you go through the law and you see all the aspects of the 10 commandments, you see they're all based on a concept, a foundation of love. Because that's God. Everything God has done is love. Will, affection, understanding. I desire everything to be this way because that's who I am. So my affection is for those things which bring that into existence. You know, we look at the Eucharist. We look at the death of Christ. This we would not consider this love. But it was love because he loved us so much he was willing to pay the price for our deliverance so that we would be free from the bondage of sin and slavery. We would have new life. It was love. We don't see it that way if we look at it. Why would God kill his son? He didn't kill his son. We did. It was our sin. Our iniquity he took upon himself. And that sin, that iniquity which came from us brought death to him. But he faced that death so that he could conquer it. He could overcome it. And he could destroy its power and bring love back into existence in our lives. This is the love of God, the compassion of God, and the provision of God. It's amazing, the scriptures, how that they bring this out to us, that we should love. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. All that is within me. Bless his holy name. Psalm 103. Romans 13:10. Love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. So if you love, you don't need to worry about all the other things because everything will come forth out of a foundation, out of a will, out of an affection for love. You do this for one purpose. Paul said in 1 Timothy, the purpose of our instruction is love. In 1 Corinthians 13, love never fails. Here's the power of that which God has given to us. It's the essence of life itself. Love. That is the commandment that he gives to us because this is his purpose. I want you to have the best life. How do you have that life? Love. I'm creating you to be like me. Everything God does is based on that foundation. And he's saying to us, so you also love as I love. Love the Lord our God as ours. No other God. He must be God, our God, which means obedience, dependence, with heart, soul, and mind. And if you go back to the lessons in the past 3 or 4 Sundays, based on love, the compassion of God, the provision of God, how that he supplied everything. Everything. We lack in no good thing. The vineyard was perfect. God creates everything perfect. When he created man, man was created perfect. He was perfect, right from the very beginning. Perfect, because he was created like God. Sin came in and destroyed that. Caused it to be non-existent, or well, it still exists, but it wasn't functioning because of sin. But that perfection is here. It's still here. It's ours. But it's like Romans says, renew your mind. Renew your mind. Think the things of God. I have been created like God. I have been created like God. I am a creation of love. Renew your mind. Because we've been taught, to fight the battles, defend yourself, do all these things. Many times it's not based on foundation of love. It's based on selfishness, based upon that which we want for ourselves. From the very beginning, this is what God spoke to man. Deuteronomy chapter 6, I quoted it earlier. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and all thy might. That's right in the beginning. Moses brought that to us. This is God's commandments to us. Love dominates our emotions. If we truly are that character of love, our emotions are affected by it. Our emotions will be pleasing. They will be not anger and bitterness and other things. They will be those things which are coming forth from love. It directs our thoughts. It causes us to think right. Sometimes, you see something, and the first thing, the normal thing would be, you see the bad in that. You see the evil in that. No, there's something good there. If you have love, you're going to see the good. We look at the pandemic, which really is not a pandemic because it doesn't qualify to be a pandemic, but you look at it, look at what's happened. Evil, we can see the bad in it easy. But what about the good? Have we seen the good in all of this? Because in everything, there is some good. The good is that it's brought families back together. They had to stay together in the lockdown. Maybe the lockdown wasn't needed, whatever, but it was causing something good to happen. It also caused a lot of people to lose their jobs. And what's good about that? Because in many cases, the jobs was destroying the family. The jobs was destroying relationships. Now, many of those people who were losing their jobs in other ways, now they work out of their house. And so now the family is more unified, it's more together. Even the education. Children don't have to go to school, they're at home. So there are some good always in things which we think are bad. There's something inside of it, there's something underneath it that brings out good, even though the surface of it we don't agree with, we don't like, we think it's bad. But stop and analyze it and look. You'll see the good in the midst of everything. When my mother would spank me with that switch, I didn't see any good. But eventually, it calmed me down, corrected me in whatever areas were necessary. But in the beginning, it's not that way. But the end product is what you are working for. This is God. That's what God does. Our religion consists in loving God. Without loving God, you cannot have religion. Because God is the creator of everything. Now the second part of that commandment, he said, the second part, is to love your neighbor as yourself. There's misunderstanding in the way that's presented. Because you are not the standard. How you love yourself is not the standard. The standard is how God loves you. Because that's how you think. If you receive him, you see that what God has given to me is that which is good. And so that is the standard now. What is our challenge is to love others the way God loves us. And that's a big challenge. Because a lot of people, I don't know how many, but some people don't like themselves. They have no love for themselves. They see themselves as not worthwhile. They see themselves as not valuable. They don't see themselves in the very image that God created them to be. And so you can't say they love themselves. And so that's why they attack other people. Why do they do this? Because they don't love themselves. If they loved themselves, they would not be attacking other people. When you see the politicians arguing and fighting among themselves, because they don't have the love for themselves. They're trying to get their own image built up by attacking someone else. But if you have the love of God in it, you're not going to attack. If there's anything there, you're going to see, what can I do to help that person see that they are greater than what they are, what they're seeing that they are. The standard is the love of God. That's the standard for everything. And when it talks about love your neighbor as yourself, it's talking about how that God has changed you and made you to be like him. Your brother is the same. Because your brother, being the image of God as you are the image of God, how can you hate your brother? Because he has the same image as you do. To hate him is to hate yourself, and is to hate God, because you're hating the image of God. You're attacking the image of God. Oh, what a challenge to us to begin to realize who God has created us to be and how we are challenged in being who God made us to be. If, in 1 John, if someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he's a liar. Because you can't love God if you hate the image of God. You can't love God because you hate the image. And we are created in the image of God. And that image now demands or requires honor and respect and love. Because that's who we are. For the one who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. But notice how this is said. If you hate your brother, you have not seen God. Not seen him. Because you're not recognizing the fact that you're created in his image and you should be like him. You can't see that. Listen to what it says. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he's a liar. For the one who does not love his brother whom he can see cannot love the God whom he does not see, because he doesn't see beyond to see that that is an image of God. If it's an image of God you love. It's amazing how we have taken surface things rather than looking at realities of what God has given to us. In Leviticus chapter 19, you shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. No vengeance, no grudge, love. That's what God says. Now there is, when we talk about love, sometimes we think, oh, I just have to love everybody, and we do. But there's also wisdom that comes with that which we also are required to use. I would read this portion from the Old Testament that helps us understand this. A pleasant voice multiplies friends, and a gracious tongue multiplies courtesies. Let those that are at peace with you be many, but let your advisers be 1 in 1,000. When you gain a friend, gain him through testing, and do not trust him hastily. For there is a friend who is such as his own convenience, but he will not stand by you in your day of trouble. And there is a friend who changes into an enemy, and will disclose a quarrel to your disgrace. There is a friend who is a table companion, but will not stand by you in your day of trouble. In your prosperity, he will make himself your equal, and bold with your servants. But if you are brought low, he will turn against you and will hide himself from your presence. Keep yourself far from your enemies, and be on guard toward your friends. A faithful friend is a sturdy shelter. He that has found one has found a treasure. There is nothing so precious as a faithful friend, and no scales can measure his excellence. A faithful friend is an elixir of life, and those who fear the Lord will find him. Whoever fears the Lord directs his friendship aright, for as he is, so his neighbor is also. So with the attitude of being loved, it still causes us to be able to evaluate and not immediately just fully accept everybody. Try to test them. Don't tell them your secrets, because they'll use your secrets against you. But each of us is learning how to be what God created us to be. And in that growth, there are those who are not yet at that point, and you have to recognize this. Scriptures tell us, when there's a problem, if you're approaching the person, we went through this, they don't accept what you said, you bring a second and third person with you, they don't accept that, then you take it to the leaders of the church, they don't accept that. Now love comes into action. You separate yourself from him and have nothing to do with him. Why? So that he will realize that alone he can't make it. He can't survive alone. If that is the way we function, we see love at work. At the moment it doesn't seem like love, but it's love, because it's the very heart of who we are. The very essence of our life, and it's the power of our life. The very power of life itself is love. When we act in love, when we function in love, it is the power that God has created for us. How is the world so strong? How is everything that God has done so strong? Because it came from an attitude or character of love. And we were given freedom. We have to choose. We can choose to either give what God has given us, or we can set it aside. I shared with the priest, we had a meeting on Friday, this, having been separated, for 8 months from people, and you're basically in lockdown all this time, a lot of time to meditate and think. In creation, in the beginning, what God created, number one, was life. First thing he created, life. The second thing he created was marriage. Marriage and life fit together, because from marriage comes life, which then is God building his church. The third thing is the liberty. He gave us liberty. We have to choose. He doesn't force us. We have to choose to walk with him. The very foundation of our life with Christ. First, life. And never be involved in destroying life. Whether it's physical or whether it's emotional, whatever it may be, we are not to do that. We are to restore. Sometimes in the restoration, it takes a little pain, a little separation, whatever you want to call it. But it's love to get people back. Our whole goal is love. Marriage works in that realm to bring that about. So it's a challenge for us to look at what God has given to us. It's a whole foundation of life. Love, marriage, and freedom. Liberty. What God gave. His kingdom, what he wants for us. So what a challenge for us in the midst of all of this. God's allowing it for one reason, to wake us up. Good. Don't like it. Don't agree with it. But okay, God, I'm listening. I'm listening. I want to learn. And in it, we will learn great things. We will not end up down. We will end up better because of him. Amen.
Let us now profess the foundation of our faith as we sing the Nicene Creed.
We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, Maker of heaven and earth, and of all things, visible and invisible. We believe in one Lord, Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, begotten